All right, now that I have the wheelbase drawn, I can start working on the front end of the bike. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line from the front axle, and this is going to be the line that will be my. I'm going to draw the head tube angle, and the head tube angle on this bike is 67.7. So I'm going to come here, 60, 65, 66, 67, put a little mark. Now using my long ruler, I'm going to draw that. I'm going to go pretty long on it, but I'm also going to go kind of light with it too. All right? Now, I know that I used the head tube angle, and this isn't actually our head tube. This, as we learned earlier, we have to put the offset into here. So the offset on this fork that I'm using is 51 millimeters. So I'm actually going to take this line that I've drawn, and I'm going to measure off of it 51 millimeters. And I'm going to make a parallel line right next to it. And if I do this correctly, and if I measure it accurately, this other line that is offset, this line should have that same 67.7 angle. And I'm going to, again, draw kind of lightly, and I'm going to go pretty long on this one. All right? So that's actually the head tube angle, and then this distance from the front axle to that, that's your offset here, head tube angle here, and this is kind of just another line that we were using to find our head tube angle. Now, what I'm going to use now is what's called the axle crown, and this will help me find out where my head tube is. My head tube's somewhere around in here. So I'm going to use my axle crown on this fork, which is about 504 millimeters. So I'm going to use my measurement from the front axle up here to 50.4, which would be right here. So that spot is going to be the actual place where the bottom of the head tube would be. So this is the axle to crown on that fork. And right here is where my head tube will be. All right. So now that I got the bottom of my head tube, I know that my head tube length is 120 millimeters, so I can go up here, measure up 120 millimeters, which is right about here, put that, again, draw kind of another perpendicular line. So there's my head tube, and now I can actually find my effective top tube, and if I did this correctly, my effective top tube goes from this point here all the way back here to the seat tube, and on this bike the effective top tube should be 626. And so I'm going to put my ruler up here, and again I'm trying to find a nice parallel line to this line earlier, so kind of bringing this up and bringing it to right about here, and it should be 626, and my line, I got about 605, so I'm about 15 millimeters off, which is all right for a hand-drawn bicycle frame. All right, now the other thing I have to do, now that I've got my effective top tube, my head tube length, I've got my head tube angle, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw on my down tube and my top tube. And for these ones, they're just kind of general. And so I'm going to just drop down again about another 40 millimeters and put a mark, and I'm going to come up from here 40 millimeters and draw a mark. And now I'm going to draw from my bottom bracket up to that bottom line, and this would be my down tube will go to there, and my top tube, I'm going to go from that 40 millimeter mark back here to this 40 millimeter mark and mark that. All right. So there you go. This is my bicycle frame that I've drawn. Take a look at it. So from here, what I'm going to ask you to do is let's start labeling and adding dimensions to all these parts on your bike frame, and we'll draw on some tubes in that later. So thanks for listening.